go. 3, 2, 1. And.
No, you just point. Oh, am I introducing the show?
What I did. What? Stupid.
This is going to be interesting, folks. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. It's going to be fun.
It is. It should be, anyways, because this is a very special colleague conversation with.
That I got talked into, by the way.
Pretty much. Under false pretenses. I told them we had a guest, but they canceled, and now we're going to talk to Rick today. So it is colleague conversation with me, Nain, and my special guest, Rick Ramos.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I am so honored. I've heard so much about this show. I've always wanted to be on it.
So much crap, man.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing, man. You talk a lot.
Isn't that what we do in a talk show?
No, that's it. You talk a lot. You talk more than you should when we have guests on here.
Oh, okay.
But we never get a full story of Rick's journey into the martial arts. We always get little snippets here and there, and you'd have to watch a lot of episodes, which, by the way, we have many episodes that you need to catch up on.
Oh,
Colleague
yes,
Conversation.
so many.
Like and subscribe. Sign in with your email. You don't have to pay anything. You just have to logged in, and we get the numbers because it helps. How does it help?
Well, what they do is they have an algorithm that tracks how many people watch the show, how many hours, and depending on that, then you can get monetized. It takes about 4,000 hours and 1,000 subscribers. So we're halfway.
So, folks, we're halfway there.
Yeah, we're about 475.
We're almost halfway there.
Yeah, there you go.
So, come on. Subscribe and do all that stuff, please, because it helps. Because if we want more content, it has to make sense.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. But we are here today to talk about something that happened that we weren't really expecting. We weren't after, and it definitely blindsided us.
Yeah, it's funny because I get this package in the mail. It's a tube. I'm like, who the hell? What is this from?
Yeah, the funny thing about it is that the person that sent it was like, "Oh, Nain, can I send you and Rick's thing to you?" I'm like, "Oh, okay," and he sends it to you.
Exactly. I don't know. The other funny part about that, because you said Dennis, and I thought it was our good friend Dennis Duarte. So I go, "Hey, Dennis, what are you sending me?" He's like, "I have no clue. What are you talking about?" So yes, to him, I sound like an idiot. It's like, what?
I'm sure that's
so
not
I opened this package up.
Yeah.
And inside are these two wonderfully, beautifully done certificates. And they're certificates of acknowledgement that somebody has acknowledged us. And I want to, a heartfelt shout out to you guys over at the OKO, which is the Ordanas Kaiju Kempo Ohana. With a great grandmaster over there, Jason
Groff.
Jason Groff.
And his right-hand man, Dennis Stewart.
And Dennis Stewart, which is the Dennis that you had told me about. But what makes this special for me, and Nain had gotten one as well, what made this special, it was something we weren't looking out for, or begging for, or asking for.
Or working towards.
But, I don't even know we were even working. Yeah, we weren't even
working. Well, that's
working.
what I'm saying.
Yeah, we weren't doing any of these things, but somebody was thoughtful enough and kind enough to acknowledge what we do here in the martial arts world, right? Sure, we are practitioners of martial arts, but...
You wouldn't tell by the show, but...
Yeah, I never put myself out there to say, oh, I'm this great, blah, blah, blah. As a matter of fact, in our system, the Bladed Mind, created by my brother Danny, we don't do belts.
Nope.
We
don't have ranks.
We don't have ranks, and I like it that way because it keeps me low key. And to me, it's not about the rankings. I just have a love for teaching.
Right.
So.
But here's the reason why we're here, folks. But part of those teachings have developed into this idea that in order to progress within yourself, whatever you do or don't know, you do have to eventually teach because it pushes the boundaries of what you understand, and with every new student you find something deeper. Even though you're not adding anything to it, you're just understanding the little bit that you have so much more that it becomes all these different things, and it's going to change for the individual.
Yeah, and my biggest thing for all of our students is that as soon as you learn something well enough, and it doesn't have to be perfect. But as long as you know it well enough, I want you to go ahead and start teaching it. to like the new person that comes in,
Mm-hmm.
or even to myself, or even to you.
Right.
I say, oh, teach me a lesson. I used to be notorious for doing that with Naina. You know, I'd say,
As a matter of fact, Naeem
Yeah.
Short started with one of those lessons on
Right,
camera.
yeah.
Here, Naeem, you have 5 minutes. Teach something. Like, what the f-
But because of that, one, it's a great gauge for me as the instructor to see where you are.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an even better gauge for you, the student, to realize where you actually are yourself, right? Even more so than me, because if, as I always say, you're the most important person in the classroom,
Mm-hmm.
then I'm giving you that opportunity to become even better than what you thought you could be. So, you know, and so far it's worked very well.
And I wonder if that's what's being recognized by the OKO in reference to
Right.
to the title that they bestowed upon you.
Yeah, wow, that title is something I never even expected. I was
Nope.
like, what?
And funny enough, you tried to avoid for a long time.
And I still try to avoid. I don't like being called out by titles. It's,
Nope.
For us, it's always been what? Kuya
Kuya.
Rick, right? Which just means brother Rick.
Mhm.
I've always felt that I'm just a guy who knows some stuff. And if you're willing to learn it from me, cool, right? And that's where I leave it.
And that's I think what I'd love to put today here in front of the camera is let's talk about what you know. Because we know Rick, the a-hole that everyone sees on camera, but we don't really know the history of it. Now, keep in mind, folks, throughout the entire story, he's shied away from titles. But that doesn't mean he hasn't trained in other arts or he doesn't have anything behind him. I mean, as far back as high school,
Yeah.
you had people coming at you with knives.
Yeah, and even a gun, remember? And chains and it's crazy ass shit like that.
So
you know,
let's start there.
all right. So when I was in high school, I found out that I had a cousin
Mm-hmm.
who actually owned a martial arts school, and that was Lenny Beliso.
Lenny.
And back in the day, when in San Francisco, their school was located on Army Street, which is now Cesar Chavez.
Mm-hmm.
I found out that I could take free lessons.
He's still Filipino, folks.
Yeah, very much Filipino. But I went there, you know, and we would have to clean the floors and all those things. And I studied there for a little bit. And then from there, I started to work at a hotel. Or I started doing security work,
There.
right? And I started at the Moscone Center, got a job at the Mark Hoffman's Hotel, which is one of those luxury, uppity,
Didn't the guys wear top hats like the ones in
Yeah,
front with
yeah.
these like red?
Yeah, the
Coats?
the doorman.
Yeah.
Whatever. Rich people galore, right?
Mhm.
But the cool part about that is that's where I learned Wing Chun. And the people that had taught me were all the Chinese cooks.
Wait, so you started with Lenny, and what art was that?
And that was Kempo Karate.
So Kempo karate in
Right.
your teenage years,
Right.
and people knew you could fight for some reason.
Yeah, they'd heard that I was doing martial arts somewhere, and again, I never bragged about it, but people would approach me and I'd knock them on there. Back in those days, you got to remember, there were a lot of gangs because of the Wanderers, so everybody wanted to be in a gang. And
Oh wait, the Warriors?
no, the Wanderers.
The Wanderers.
Yeah, which is an old movie. Seriously, that kind of.
Is that how color, like the movie Colors, influenced the whole gang life?
Yeah, that it was that era.
Okay.
And then you had Ring of Fire or all of these other things that had gangs, warriors like you were talking about.
Yeah.
So everybody in school started going into different factions.
So the little cliques.
Oh yeah, everybody got into their things. I remember we used to wear members only jackets in our gang, right? Because that was we all got because we could afford the members only. So that's what we wore. But silly shit like that back in high school.
Silly shit, but you still fought.
Well, because people always wanted to see if I could actually fight or not. Crazy story. So I'm in ROTC because I didn't like hanging out with all the Filipinos because I was raised in America.
Yeah.
I got here when I was about 3 years old, so I was kind of pretty much American. Filipinos didn't like me too much because they didn't hear the accent.
You're not Filipino enough.
Right. So I'm in an ROTC class, and by that time I was a platoon leader, which means I had to teach the class.
Okay.
And this particular day, I had to step out of the class to go get something. I come back and somebody tells me, "Hey, there are 3 guys looking for you, and they're pissed off and they have kitchen knives. You know, like the steak
Did
knives."
you sleep with one of their sisters?
No, and I'll tell you, and that's coming. So me, because back then I was just real ballsy and I didn't care. I was like, "Ooh, let's go look for them." So you know,
Only guy I know that goes looking for the guys that were looking for him with knives.
yeah, and obviously I don't carry knives in school, but I was curious.
Well, and you were in uniform at the time.
No. I
Oh,
didn't
you
have to
weren't?
know back
Okay.
then. Yeah, those would be on Fridays. This was a different day.
ah.
So I went looking for them, and one of my good friends, Randy Shirley, good man, he followed me because he knows, you know, oh, Rick's gonna do something
Shit's
stupid,
about
right?
to get down.
Yeah, right.
Ah, okay.
So he follows me, and I'm looking all over the school, and I finally find him in the school cafeteria, which is way on the other side of where my classroom was.
So you went lapped around.
Oh
the
yeah,
school.
I went around. So I finally see them. And I walked into the back way of the cafeteria where there's a door, and then you have the front entrance. There's another door, and there's 20 guys there, and they're sitting against one of the cafeteria tables, and they start coming over me, you know, like, it's, you know, they're doing the whole thing, right? And my first one was like, "Hey, somebody looking for me?" like a real asshole, right? And they come closer and closer, and then eventually, at a certain point, they stop. And they start backing up. And I'm thinking, in my head, why are they backing up? It's just me and Randy, right? And I turn around, it's the whole school behind me, right? Because they had heard, Rico's getting into a fight, you know, whatever.
That's what he was known for, I guess.
Yeah. So, and I'm just kind of laughing into my head, and I come back and I look at the guys. And after a while, they're saying something, hey, and I guess one of the guys, his girlfriend, was in my class as a student in the ROTC. And again, I'm the teacher because that's what the class does. It teaches to be a leader. So I'm teaching this class, and she's in my class. And I have to talk to her. So this guy thinking I'm trying to hit on her, I don't know, right? It's stupid stuff, right?
Yeah, this is before social media.
Exactly, right?
Jesus.
So this guy thinks I'm hitting on his girlfriend who happens to be a student in a class that I have to teach.
You're doing what you're supposed to
I'm
do.
doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I could care less. I didn't even know, right? So after a little while of just going back and forth, now they start coming closer. And somebody yells out, "Teacher, teacher!" And now they're like advancing towards me even faster. I look behind me, and all I see is the last leg of the last person leaving the cafeteria, of all the people that came with me. Like, fuck, now I'm here by myself. Got Randy staying with me. Good man.
Oh, Randy stayed?
He stayed. Yeah. He's a good, you know.
He's the one.
Yeah, he's the guy. And then luckily the teachers came in, you know, and stuff, and I get sent to the office, you know, me and the guys, you know, with the girlfriend. And they're like, "What started this?" He goes, "He thinks I'm hitting his girlfriend. I'm actually teaching class." And the guy, you know,
He felt stupid.
Yeah, he feels like an idiot. And, you know, so stuff like that was going on in school, right? You know, another goofy ass story. Again, back in those days, gangs, right? And I don't know whose gang this guy was in, but he came into our courtyard because at Mission High School in San Francisco, where I went to school, there's this big courtyard for ROTC. And at that time, I happened to be the only one outside. Actually, there's a couple of other people, but this guy walks in from out of the street, and he asked me, "Hey, do you know such and such?" And I go, "Yeah, it's my cousin, right? And my cousin is in a gang, or it was in a gang, yeah, allegedly, but he's in a gang." And this guy pulls out a gun and holds it to my head. Goes, "Well, you know," I said, "Dude, he's my cousin. It doesn't mean I agree whether he's in the gang or not. You know, blah, blah. He's just my cousin. You know, what the fuck? You know, what do you want me to do? You know." I'm not gonna, whatever, right? And again, I have this gun in my head.
Did you just go salesman on him?
Well, pretty much, right? Because I had to tell, you know, I can't beat a gun. So I just said, "Dude, you know, calm down. You know, hey, what you guys got going, that's you guys' business.
Right.
You know, yeah, you've seen me with him because he is my cousin, so I'm sure we're gonna hang out. What the fuck, right?" And He goes, well, you tell him I'm going to kick his ass and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, okay. You know, at that point, you're just bowing down to whatever you say. Yes, I'm an asshole.
You want me to kick his ass? I'll kick his ass too.
Right. So it was back in those days. I mean, Mission High School was always notorious for just being the worst school ever. Yeah, I mean, a lot of bad kids, and I don't know what it was. It was the neighborhoods or whatever.
Well, even when I was in high school, the Mission, you would hear, that's not the high school you want to go to.
Exactly. I mean, teachers were getting beat up by the students. Yeah. You know, so stuff like that. So that that happened after high school. When I got to the hotel, like I said, the cooks were teaching me Wing Chun.
Okay.
And the nice thing about that, again, they weren't charging. So I'm getting all these free lessons from everybody. So they would give me, back then it was VHS. And he goes, oh, Rico, here, take this tape, watch it, study it, and when you come back, we'll do some stuff here in the kitchen. So while they're making food, I'm up there learning Wing Chun. That's right. In my uniform, it was the best of times. Right? And they had this, they brought me down, because this was at the Nob Hill, which is on California. Yeah. And right up at the top of it were Snob Hills, what it was called, where all the rich people would live, right? So back in the day, right? But it became a hotel, and these guys would take me down to Chinatown, which is, several blocks down the hill. And there's Portsmouth Park, which is like where all the Chinese people hang out in their park, and they're all doing Tai Chi, Tai Chi and stuff like that, right? So he goes, hey, yeah, come on, it's Saturday, I want you to meet this guy. I said, all right, so we go down there, and there's this crowd of people, and there's this old Chinese guy, shorter than I am, and I'm 5'4". So this guy's might be 5 feet, but kind of, a little stocky, kind of like, right? Just an old man. You wouldn't know anything, right?
Good food.
Yeah, but people are trying to knock him on his ass. Big guys are running into him and doing all these things trying to knock him down. He couldn't do it, right?
Did you try?
Oh, hell no. I'm smart. I was like, nope. Because I understand. I've been learning Wing Chun from my buddies. They were like, oh, yeah, that's Master such and such. I forget his name. It's Asian name. I couldn't, even if I could remember, I wasn't going to pronounce it right. As bad as saying the names. Right?
We know the history of that, folks. Yeah.
So they're telling me, he goes, yeah, he's using his chi and he's digging in the ground and this and that. Me, I'm like, bullshit. Yeah. Right? And obviously there's some truth to that, the way these guys control their energy and whatever else. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, wow, will I get to that? He goes, nope. They're up, they're honest. He goes, no, you're not Chinese. I'm like, fuck you guys.
You're not gonna get the secrets of that.
Yeah. And they're just making fun of me. But it was really cool, Then after that, I moved on. I didn't do anything for a while, but I decided I would take an Okinawan, so a Shorin route. Okay. Right? And talk about a hard style. I mean, everything was very, just really, And I get there, and I'm playing with them for a while, and the instructor, won't say names.
We won't say.
They say, hey, do you want to belt up? And I've only been there maybe a month, if that, right?
Wow.
And then would you like to belt up? We can give you your test now, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, you're good enough. You're
right.
You should.
So I'm like, if you think I can do it, sure, all right. And then she proceeds to tell me, okay, well, it's $60 for the test, $60 for the belt, da, 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 da. I'm like, oh.
It's one of those.
Yeah, so I just said, nope, I'm done.
Wow.
And that took me away from martial arts for the longest time.
Yeah, I was going to say, you have always vocalized in our other episodes about, the McDojos and the certain mentality that comes. And again, nothing against people who have a business because it's a business.
Right.
Do you
we get it.
Get your money, we get it. But for you, because you never aspired to the titles or to have your own school, that just rubbed you the wrong way.
Yeah, because it's almost an insult at that point, right? Because I knew, and again, I was so used to getting for free.
Again, he's Filipino.
But it was an interesting thing. Then for the longest time, and a good maybe 6, maybe 7 years, I didn't do anything. Damn. Just on my own stuff, whatever. Mm-hmm. But then Danny comes home back in '92, and he says, hey, Rick, I met up with this guy, and he showed me how to do Filipino martial arts. I said, cool, who's the guy? Doug Marcato. Like, what? Who's he?
Exactly. Back then it was like, no,
who's
he's just
he?
some guy.
Oh, just some guy, right? Come to find out, Mark, well, shit.
He became
He
the
becomes,
guy.
Yeah, Doug
So.
Marcato. And you guys can watch him on the History Channel.
Yeah, we're not plugging it because, well, if you don't know the name by now,
Yeah, there's no need.
there's no need. Sorry. Whatever. Look up his name, Doug.
Yeah, but so Danny shows me this thing, and it's funny because for a year with Danny, he's talking to me about Pikiti Tertia, because that's where the system was from,
You say talking.
Yeah. The funny thing about training with me and Danny, training with Danny in general, we didn't do a lot of physical stuff that I make my students do. I make you do the drills and the Sinowalis and the footwork, triangle, and all these things. We didn't have a lot of that. There were some times when we did it just so I could understand what he was talking about, but for the most part, my training with Danny was probably 75% verbal, as far as ideas and concepts and things. He'd show me certain moves, and I would show it back and he'd say, okay, that's pretty good. Sloppy as hell, but he knew I understood it.
Right.
I got the idea of what he was talking about. Then I would talk to him about the verbal stuff about it, the whole technical things and the whys of it all. And he goes, yeah, that's exactly what it is. And then, short while after that, after doing that, probably about a year or something.
So should we say idiot savant?
Just idiot.
An idiot would work, yeah.
We don't need to have this about, but just an idiot. But after a while, I one of my godsons, a kid by the name of Arslan, he's my godson. I said, hey, if you ever want to learn, I'm willing to teach you. So during Christmas one time, or a few days before Christmas, we were at their house, and they invited us over for dinner and stuff, and I showed him some stuff and knocked him on his ass, did things, and he goes, oh shit, that's badass, and his mom had been...
He's a teenage boy.
Yeah, teenage kid, right? And he's
Yeah.
all excited, and the mom's like, hey, would you be willing to teach him? I go, yeah, definitely, he's my godson, whatever you want, I won't even charge you guys, because...
Again, free.
Yeah, free. It's a reoccurring pattern, folks. Whether I'm doing it for free or somebody else is giving me free, I'm free, right? So I start teaching him, and I got him to. We had these knife drills, right? Knife tapping or something, right? And we were using trainers, dull blades, nothing, even pieces of wood, just going, right? And then one day, probably after about 3 months, I take him into the kitchen. I hand him a kitchen knife. I said,
Another reoccurring thing.
right. So I hand him a live blade, kitchen knife. I said, all right, let's do the drill. And we're going, I go, see, now you know how to play with a knife. And he was blown away. He's like, holy shit, And he was like, to him, it was like, wait, I've only been doing this 3 months. You give me a live blade, right? And I said, yeah, because I believe you're ready for this. And what better time?
Yeah, but what did that do to you as a non-instructor?
Well, I understood the individual, and that's what as you know. But before we get to that, let's talk more about the process after.
Oh yeah. There's still
because that's an interesting part, and we'll get back to it because it's important. But once I got him going, one of my nieces said, hey, I want to learn.
Is Jen?
Jen, yeah, right? So she comes over every weekend with Arslan, and we're playing in my backyard. And one of my other nephews said, oh, hey, Uncle Rick, I want to learn. So I got 3 kids, and I'm telling Danny, I said, hey, Danny, blah, blah, blah. No, that was Michael.
Oh, Michael.
Yeah,
okay.
Michael Gatman.
Yeah.
So I said, Danny, hey, people are starting to come over. And then at that time, I was living over on Faxon in San Francisco, Faxon Street. And we didn't have a washing machine, so we had to go to the laundromat. So I'm over there one morning, and Faxon Street is over near City College and also San Francisco State. So at the laundromat they were at, we had a lot of college kids come over there.
You pervert.
And these two girls who were in college, and we got to talking, because I'm sitting there doing nothing for 2 hours of laundry, right?
He gets bored really fast.
Sure
he has ADD. He has no real attention span. He has to do something.
Right. So I talked to them, and we get into the subject of martial arts.
Uh-huh.
Now I have 2 more new students. Right? So the backyard is starting to fill up.
It's like,
Right? So, and I get Danny involved. Danny comes on and he starts helping me teach. Right? And again, Danny is my instructor for all intents and purposes.
Mm-hmm.
But by this time, he starts to take out all the fluff from
wait, so it
Kiki.
evolved even more?
Well, when he started, it was just Bakiti from Doug Marqueta,
Oh.
right? But then shortly after, like I say, a year or so later,
Mm-hmm.
he says, oh, I'm taking this out, taking that out. And he decided that a lot of things that were inside of these school curriculum stuff were things you would never be able to use in a real fight, just because
The way it's taught.
the way it's taught.
Okay.
Things don't work the way they're taught. You have to be able to be adapted to whatever might happen.
Modify them if needed.
So
when
he
needed.
decided that, let's make it all combative. Let's do everything in application,
Oh.
right? To an extent.
Mhm.
You still had to learn the curriculum, the basic stuff, the footwork, triangles,
angles,
sinualities,
yeah.
angles, whatever else. But he just modified it and said, okay, these are all things that are actually real practical, and a good way to start. Then from there, what would he always say? Make it your own and develop it and process the whole thing and move the way you need to move.
Yeah, learn in class, train at home.
Right, all of that, right? So now we got a couple of more students pop up. I said, all right, great.
All from the laundromat?
Yeah, well, not from the laundry, but other places. People, So then we go to a park over in Westlake, Dozier Park,
Okay.
which is over there by the Burger King, out in Westlake. People see me there and they're like, ooh, what are you guys doing? And we're like, oh yeah, we're just doing this. So now we have more students. I think at that time we probably had about 10 students. So
Yeah.
we're in the parking lot of this park, and you're clack, 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 clack. Police roll by. Hey, what are you guys doing? Yeah, we're just okay. That's cool. Who's the teacher? Oh,
Danny.
I'm like Danny, right? Because it's a cop. I'm like Danny, right? So it starts to go pretty good, and at a certain point, there was a typhoon. I forget which one it was in the Philippines. Just devastated a lot of places. And they had this thing with the Brotherhood of the Blades, which is a Doug Marqueta thing.
Mm-hmm.
And he was going to all the people who did FMA to donate to this thing. I was like, great, me, and I love fundraisers. So I'm looking for a place to do a fundraiser at, because we're going to bring in an instructor who's Jeff Davison, real awesome guy from Detroit. Does C-Lot and also did Marqueta Kali,
Okay.
good friend of Doug's. I was like, great, So he comes out, but we do this thing and we donate all that money to somebody in the Philippines. But the school that we were able to use wasn't even a school. It's actually Physique Magnifique. And we go in there,
That's how
and there's a guy by the name of Daniel Lee who helped us, because he was working at the time, and said, yeah, come over here, And it was funny because after we did that, Futaba and Jim, who owned the place, which is where we're at now, by the way.
Yeah, we're one of the other secret rooms.
Jim said, hey, you guys are pretty cool. I like the way you guys are, this and that, and why don't you make this place your home? And that was almost 10 years ago, right?
Yeah? Oh, actually, you guys started in November of 2013.
Yeah. So,
right?
November. Right.
Yeah, so 10 years ago.
So 10 years ago, and we haven't left since. He said, make this your home, and we love it here, because it's a nice place. Wonderful setup. I mean, they have all kinds of things that you can do here, boxing.
Oh, well, it's evolved a lot since,
Oh, yeah.
Remember, they used to have mats down there. It was like judo, now it's Olympic lifting. I mean, it's changed a lot, but it's always had that family feeling.
And then, and then from there, we just kept on going and going, and, we are where we are now. And then, of course, call the Konversation got into play because of the pandemic. So here we are. My credentials,
well, you didn't have any.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if I can call them that, right? Because I never stayed long enough in any place to make myself, and I never wanted them. I remember,